We've got a serious ass video to talk about today. I don't joke around when it comes to worst Counter-Strike player stuff. Let's look at some of the videos I've made on this channel. Who is the worst Counter-Strike player of all time? The worst Counter-Strike player on every team. The worst Counter-Strike player of 2024. The worst Counter-Strike player of 2025. The worst AWPer in Counter-Strike history. So at this point, it only makes sense to look at the worst performances in Counter-Strike's history.
Farmlings, do you suffer from horribly, brutal, migraine-inducing lag when you play Counter-Strike?
Don't sweat, cousin, because Gear Up Booster has you covered. Gear Up Booster is the most cost-effective way to improve your performance and connection stability when playing CS2. They optimize your connection to the point where even cross-region play will feel incredibly smooth. Along with this, they have an anti-packet loss feature, so you can be sure that Deagle With was in fact all you and not your internet. Gear Up Booster is also a great solution for players with normally high ping, as it redirects your connection and can decrease your ping to as low as 100 milliseconds. Also, don't sweat, Gear Up is completely safe to use and is already partnered with huge orgs like TSM. Every new user gets a free trial and a 60% discount, so if you want to tackle high latency, packet loss, and cross-region play issues, check out Gear Up with the link in the description, and back to the video. It's March 25th, 2017, and it's another normal day in Tier 2. Today's Tier 2 tournament we'll be looking into is DreamHack Open Austin 2017 Europe Open Qualifier, and our subject will be German team Berserk. German team Berserk goes on to lose their only game 16-1, and in one of the ultra rare cases in Counter-Strike history, a player would end the match with 0 kills. Keto would go 0-17, posting 22.6 ADR, have a 5.9 KAST, which if you don't know, KAST is the percentage of rounds a player had either a kill, assist, survived, or was traded. And so if we do the math, out of 17 total rounds in this game, 5.9% rounds out to 1. One of the 17 rounds in this game, Keto got an assist or was traded, because we know he didn't get a kill, and with 17 deaths, we know he never survived. This performance would go on to give Keto a miraculous 0.04 rating, one of the lowest ratings in a single match of all time. But don't worry guys, there is some good news here. Keto on HLTV was voted the player of the match due to his incredible performance, receiving 76.6% of the votes. Keto would go on to have a decent career, winning 4 tournaments with Big during their cracked online CS run, and as of today, he plays for AM. But if you guys noticed, in this game on Berserk, one of Keto's teammates is someone that we have talked about before on this channel, a player who I deem to be the worst AWPer in Counter-Strike history, and that man is Solik. Now, Solik wouldn't be horrible in this game. He would go 7-15. Bad, but nothing we haven't seen before. Keto's part of this story doesn't come during this match or even this year, because as hard as Keto tried, he could not have a better game than Solik did in 2014. Better game, by the way, you know what I mean. The lower the rating, the better game, in my opinion. At Asus Rogue Summer 2014, the powerhouse team of Nostalgia with Kukli, Apex, Schneider, Pimp, and Overdrive, yes, that Overdrive, we're playing German team Penta, and in this game, Penta would get rocked, losing 16-5. And in this game would be Solek, who had 0 kills and 20 deaths with a 0.04 rating similar to Keto. There is one thing that makes this game a little bit worse than Keto's. Solek actually got a kill this match. It was just on his teammate. -1 and 20 would be Solek's final stat line. And I mean, come on, man. The TK happened right after his boy just got a 2-piece in the pistol. He was bringing the round back. And well, Solek decided his time was up, okay? He had no more business playing in this pistol. I just don't think -1 and 20 is a stat line that can ever be beaten in professional Counter-Strike. There is no shot in my lifetime I will see a worse scoreline than this. So I only have one thing to say. God bless you, Solek. Let's take a break from, stat lines and HLTV rating and talk about a record that was broken in 2018. After a few down years, the legendary SK/Luminosity/now MIBR core decided it was time for a big change. Fallen, Coldzera, and Fur would now be playing with 2 Americans in Stewie and Tarek. It was supposed to be a America's super team, taking the best part of South America and North America, and while on paper this team looked demonic, in practice they looked astronomically ass.
Well, duh.
And maybe their lowest point would be at the Face It London Major, where after a good start of going 2-1 in the groups and being only 1 game away from playoffs, they would need to play Prime Astralis. the map would end up being Dust 2. And after losing a 4v3 in the pistol round, Astralis would continue to rattle off round after round after round until finally the half was over and all of a sudden it was 15-0. Then after MIBR got a 5v3 in the pistol round, they pulled a Falcons and player after player for MIBR would get picked off until the game was over. Astralis had beaten them 16-0. And MIBR became the first team in Counter-Strike history to get 16-0'd at a major. In good news though, this MIBR team was still good enough to make the semifinals, and Astralis did sweep everyone in the playoffs, not dropping a map. So I mean, they were just kind of a step above everyone at the time. It's not that horrible. If you're gonna lose to any team, at least it's Prime Astralis. What about not at a major? What is one of the worst performances I've ever seen at, any tournament? I think one that has to be up there is G2 versus Sprout in the CCT 2023 Online Finals 5. G2 and CCT, man. That's like a Shaq working at McDonald's type moment. Except imagine Shaq at McDonald's gets completely fucking mogged by Gerald the cashier. The Giga Chad, a man of many talents, one of which is bottom fragging hard, would have a miserable game in G2's first map against Sprout as they lost 13-3. At the time of this game, G2 was ranked the number 6 team in the world and Sprout number 47. And while on this map, Hooksy would add himself to one of the Counter-Strike legends who finished a game with 0 kills, going 0-14, with a 14.3 ADR and a negative 9.37% round swing. But don't worry, to top it all off, he also had a .19 HLTV rating. And while it's fun to dunk on Hooksy for dropping a nothing burger, maybe even more surprising than Hooksy was Monacy, who dropped a .43 rating going 3-15. Sprout had countered the baby goat. Now, the performance wasn't that horrific. G2 would end up winning the series, but it was a fucking barn burner, man. Both Overpass and Anubis went to OT, with G2 barely squeaking them out in both. Maybe one of the most insane tier 1 versus tier 3 games that I have ever seen. What do you guys think is the worst performance at a tier 1 event in Counter-Strike history? I'll let you think on it for a second. Don't know? I don't either. But this performance is certainly up there. The CadiaN Astralis era was a complete disaster, as he paired up with 2 of his old teammates, Stown and Yabby. There's no more context to be added there. And oh boy, I'm sure they were excited to be playing together once again. Along with this, CadiaN, who is normally an AWP IGL, would now be a rifling IGL because Astralis still had device on it. And well, event after event, CadiaN would post a red rating. And event after event, Astralis would do nothing. CadiaN would have his magnum opus event at Blast Open Lisbon 2025. Astralis would play Vitality and get 13 4th and 13 6th. And during this series, CadiaN would drop a total of 7 kills. He went 7-28 with a negative 8.27% round swing and a .46 rating. The craziest part is he wasn't even the worst player on the team during map 1. He went 6-13 on Inferno and was higher rated than Stown and Yabby. The real disaster class came on the next map of Dust 2, where he went 1-15. Then after this, Astralis would need to play FaZe, and they would get 13 6th and 13 7th to get knocked out of the tournament in last place. The good news though is when compared to CadiaN's first series, he greatly improved his form. Instead of getting 7 kills, he dropped a total of 12, along with a .56 and a .41 rating to boost his total rating over the event to a whopping .47. He also had .25 kills per round, 47.1 ADR, and 1.3% of rounds he had a multi-kill. Then when you add a total of 0 firepower to all of this, oh baby, this was a generational event. You guys want to go back to horrific ratings? At ESL Challenger League Season 49 South America, we thought we had broken the record for the worst rating of all time. Bounty Hunters would be playing Audic, and Audic with 13 won them. The scoreboard for Bounty Hunters looked pretty rough, as you might expect. The top player went 10-13,
then 8-14, then 8-14, and 7-12.
But then we get to Zoc, who went 0-14 with a negative 15.87% round swing. If nothing else, this might be the lowest percentage round swing I have ever seen. And while at the time of this game happening, we had HLTV rating 2.1, which would pop out a score of a .03 HLTV rating, beating out Solik and Quito for the lowest rating of all time. Unfortunately though, HLTV 3.0 updated this and kind of ruined it, because it has now been boosted up to a .07. But there is some good news, because even if it was still a .03, it wouldn't wouldn't be the worst rating in a map of all time. For that, we have to take a trip to the 2017 Copenhagen Games Women's Edition. And in one of the first games of Group A, Team Karma would be playing iGamers Female. Karma was a majority NA team, and iGamers Female was a full French team. And in map 1, Dust 2, iGamers would lose 16-1. This is one player for iGamers, Erlin, I think is how you say their name, would do the unthinkable. What they did was not thought to have even been possible until they went and did it. The almighty 0.00 HLTV rating.
How? How? I don't know.
0 kills, 17 deaths, a flat 0 rating. Now, when I say this is a historic moment, I am being genuine. I don't think this can even happen anymore. I don't think this will ever happen again. This great achievement cannot be forgotten. Now, unfortunately, this would be the only tournament she would ever play, and after iGamers Female fell out in last place, she kind of drifted into the void. I have no idea what she's doing today, but I am wishing her the best. And this is not even being sarcastic. My genuine thanks for making Counter-Strike history. Now, we don't know what her ADR for this match was, but I can show you the lowest ADR that I have ever seen in a game. And for that, we have to go over to CCT Global Finals 2025. CCT seems to be a breeding ground for historically bad Counter-Strike performances, and this event would be no exception. The Chat GPT team themselves would be playing Boomich and the boys on Bet Boom in the opening round. Wildcard would lose Anubis 13-10 before getting completely fucking flattened on Dust 2 13-0. Now, you would expect a map like this to produce some pretty brutal stats. The highest rated player on Wildcard had a 0.57, and 4 of the players on BetBoom had a nearly 2.0 rating, with Siren just kind of being present. He went 5-2 with 37 ADR. He just kind of didn't have to do anything. But the real story of this match is Stanislaw. He went 0-13 and tied in rating with Fuzi, who went 1-13. But somehow, in a full map of professional Counter-Strike, Stanislaw only had an ADR of 3.9. Pretty much 4 damage around. 4 fucking ADR. That's like shooting someone in the toe with a Glock through a wall type damage. Like, you keep thinking about it. You think about it for a little longer, and you just cannot believe how the fuck this even happened. You know, when you do the math over a full game, that is a total of 50.7 damage. Over an entire map. 50.7 damage. What? One player has 100 health, man. That's like over the entire game, you lit someone for 50 and then took your hands off the keyboard and stopped playing. How is that possible? If there is somehow a lower ADR out there, please let me know. Because if there isn't, my God, I simply don't understand how this record is ever going to be broken. Now, for these next two, I wanted to specifically shine a light on majors. We did it a little bit earlier with the Astralis versus MIBR game, but I wanted to dig into it a little bit more. I wanted to see what the worst performance in a major final by a full team was, the worst individual performance in a major final, and the worst full rating at a major, which includes the group before playoffs and playoffs. First is, unfortunately, a Vanguard with Jame, Buster, Kickert, Sanji, and Adren in the 2019 Berlin Major Final. They were a crazy underdog coming into this tournament and somehow went on an insane run to make it all the way to the final, where they were put in the oven, door slammed shut and locked, and then cooked for 2 hours straight by Prime Astralis. They would get 16-6 on Inferno and 16-5 on Dust 2, which meant they had only won 25.6% of the total major final rounds. In order to compare CS2 and CSGO, I had to go with total rounds won percentage, and a Vanguard was by far the lowest in Counter-Strike history. Next, the worst major final that has been played in Counter-Strike history is by Fiflaren at EMS 1 Katowice 2014. NIP were playing VP after losing DreamHack winner 2013 to Fnatic. The boys would need to redeem themselves. Unfortunately, this event was being played in Poland. VP had a home game, and to make things even worse, Fiflaren decided he was taking the day off. NIP would go on to lose 16-9 on map 1 and 16-10 on map 2, and over the course of the series, Fiflaren would go 9-44, posting a 0.28 rating. The most brutal part of this is these maps weren't even that big of blowouts. If Fiflaren did anything at all, his team maybe could have won. Now, thankfully, NIP did go on to win the next major, but man, imagine they never did win one. I'm sure Fiflaren would be kept up every single night, haunted by that major final performance. So I am happy for him and the team that they did end up going to win one. Now, the worst rating at a CS2 major is Cello with a 0.69 at Copenhagen. Here, Furia went 0 of of 3 out of 5 total maps, Cello only broke double-digit kills once. But the worst major rating of all time is significantly lower than this. There are some honorable mentions here, like Sponge at Katowice 2015 with a 0.64, Sponge at Katowice 2014 with a 0.44, and Sponge at Cologne 2014 with a 0.4. I'm sorry, Sponge. I love you, bro. Okay, it's for the bit. It's for the bit. Another honorable mention is our boy Blade, who you may remember from one of my oldest videos. Well, at Katowice 2015, he posted a 0.33 rating, helping with his case significantly. But the worst rating of all time at a major is actually from someone named Deviant.
Who?
He played with a full South African team Bravado at DreamHack Winter 2014, where they lost both of their games 16-1 and 16-2, and over the course of those 2 maps, he posted a total of 10 kills. This would then come out to a 0.26 rating, a rating that I truly don't think will ever be beaten. Which one of these generational achievements was your favorite? I had a blast making this video, man. There is nothing I enjoy more than looking at some of the worst parts of Counter-Strike history. Some of the best parts in Counter-Strike history. I mean, I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, that's it for me, fellas. If you liked the video, subscribe, like, turn on notifications if you want to be notified. We'll see what else I can milk out of this topic in the future, okay? I'll see you guys later.